I'll talk about it later to you, Nacho. It's nowhere near as serious as last time. Okay, so this let's watch it. I need to switch the window though. This. Okay. Sound back on, and let's go back to here. This gotta leave, and we're back here. The thing that I want you to take away from this is to pay attention to the movements, and how all of them, even the minute ones, were following arcs of motion. The arms swinging, the legs swinging, those were extremely visible. But even the gentler ones, like even the steps, the way the heads moved, the way that the embraces, like everything was following arcs of motion. And they were all very elegantly animated. As I said, the short is in the videos channel for anyone interested. Otherwise, is there do you want to do any comments on this particular clip, the video, or should we move on? I believe especially at the beginning it is extremely apparent that this is building up to this kind of very elegant movement. This is based in dance, and so especially because of that, it's very clear that they did their best, that Ryan Woodward did his best to to really pull through with the quality of and the elegance of the movement. Most movements need not be as elegant as this one in particular, but it is important to keep in mind that for everything you do, you will be following an arc. And while we're here, I'm actually going to bring up the little example clip that I did. Discard it, yes. Okay, that was a mistake. Going back. I'm actually going to bring up the little clip that I did for last class, the example clip of the head turn. Because, exercise 4, it's right here. It's very simple, but it also illustrates this principle of the arcs, and it might be a little bit clearer to see it in action. Despite being a little bit rushed and not being particularly perfect, I gotta bring Epic Pen again. I will show you that there are arcs here, especially in the movement of the ears. The movement of the head is pretty clear. It just goes whoosh to the side. But it's in the movement of the ears that the arcs are going to start coming out and becoming more visible. Come on. And we're looking only at the tips right now, because if we were looking at more than just the tips, it would get a little bit confusing. Yeah, we've reached the end. Oh, we didn't. We didn't, actually. But it wasn't doing anything. One more. You're not gonna go forward? There you go. Thank you. I believe. Okay, there we go. There's the last one. That was getting kind of difficult. There's one more frame that I'm missing, isn't there? Guess not. But it's especially in this year, you can see the arc of movement right here. And in this one, it's a bit more difficult, or it's a bit more, it's a bit trickier. And maybe it would have looked better if I'd done something like this instead, and didn't keep these as a straight line, because then it wouldn't be breaking the arc. Right now it's breaking the arc. This one, on the other hand, goes pretty smoothly with the curve and follows the arc. Now, the important thing to note is that I showed this for the tips of the ears, but while I was animating this, I was looking at this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point as well. Because every time that you have a sharp angle like this in a drawing, you need to make sure that that angle also follows the arc. Because that's going to be what makes sure that things stay consistent in terms of size during the animation. And it's going to make sure that that's what things... that things look like what they should be looking like. So this is the important thing about the arcs, is that everything about the character needs to follow the arc. Again, this isn't a perfect example, but it is an example of how there was care put into making sure that everything was moving more or less in the same arc. Or in complementary arcs, to make sure that they're all moving in the same way and that everything is consistent. This was why I wanted to bring this up. This was done expertly in this video. Everything that moved very, very elegantly in its own arc. So let's go on to the last part. Before we go, does anyone have any questions? Anything to ask about arcs? Anything to clear up? Yes. The major ones are pretty important. So the arcs that define your primary movement, they should be pretty well defined, and you should know them very well. It's not bad practice to sketch them down before you do them. The minor arcs they're more difficult to get right because you're getting into secondary motion, you're getting into follow through as well. So you need to be careful with those other things, and it's often more easy to get them wrong. So you often need to do second passes on animation to make sure that they're moving right. And you have to go over them oftentimes point by point to make sure that they are following the right trajectory. But you can't. But realistically, you cannot plan every arc. Simply because that would be too much clutter. But planning the main arcs is important. It's definitely important. Oh, yeah. Yes, the head turn is definitely not a simple exercise. See, that's why I separate the easy ones from the difficult ones. The difficult ones are meant for people like you, who clearly have experience with drawing, and want to be challenged. The easy ones are more for people getting into animation and need the practice and the mileage, really, and the drawing a lot and all of those things to get down to the nitty-gritty and get the muscle memory and understand the basic principles and get them down. This head turn involved more than just spacing, timing, slow and slow outs, and arcs, which weren't even mentioned at the time. This also includes, what I did in particular includes squash and stretch of the head and the ears, and follow through of the ears as well as a bit of secondary action of the eyes blinking. Like, it's a lot of things to pile on top of it, I know, but these exercises are meant to be more challenging. And they don't need to be done like this. You can forego the blinking. You could make a bald person so you don't have to deal with the follow-through of the hair, or in this case of the ears. Like, you can forego these things, and you can focus solely on slow in and slow out in this case, or arcs in what we're going to be doing today. But yes, I also wanted to challenge myself, and because I haven't animated in a while, and then I'm getting back to it as well, so I wanted something. But yeah. Translating. Yes. I see.
In your mind, does it all just kind of, it all just kind of happens in your mind together, or is there like a separation of like rotation versus like a movement? I don't know.
That I would say, and this might sound a little off topic, but it isn't, I don't think. That's where the concept and the practice of solid drawing comes in. Because because it is through understanding drawing in 3 dimensions, or as a representation of 3 dimensions, that you gain the instinctive understanding of, okay, this is where it should be, give or take. It doesn't have to be perfect at this level, because well, at this point it should be a little bit more perfect, but again, it's a little bit rushed. Wait, this. I'm gonna go here because it's easier if I just open the software. Okay, at this point, like, you get the notion of 3D perspective, of 3D space through the way that the head is framed, more or less. And then you go down, this is too much, and then you do the breakdown, and here you also, like, because of the ability of solid drawing, you get a notion of how it should be, more or less, as well. That's why the key pose 1, key pose 2, and breakdown in between are so helpful as well, because it's always a good middle point that you can estimate around the rest. And then when you do the first, and then you do the last, and then you go back to doing the breakdown, and that's where the solid drawing comes in, because you can estimate what the first should look like, what the last should look like, and then you can go, okay, the middle one can look more or less like this. This is what it's going to be turning into. So, yes, when I think about this movement, I'm not thinking about, like, all the arcs merging together, because that process was done while I drew the key poses and the breakdown. I went there and I said, okay, this is more or less how it is. There's like this angle here to the ear, and there's this angle to this, actually more like this angle to the ear, and then when I did this one, it's like, oh, the angle is pretty much the opposite. It's not. This one's actually a little bit more tilted to the side. This one's definitely more pointing in this direction than the other one. And then the breakdown is like right here, and here I just drew it straight on. It doesn't need to be straight on. This is something that I actually learned from a different project of mine, which is that movement is usually more interesting if it leans more either to the beginning or to the end. By that I mean, like, if there's more slow in or slow out on one end than the other. If it isn't just even slow in and even slow out, when it's like natural movement. So because this one's here is turning a little bit less, this one's like kind of like that, and the other one is like really, really pointing, the fact that this one's in the middle kind of does that on its own, because it's turning less from here to here than it is from here to the other one. The point is, though, by doing like key pose 1, key pose 2, when you do the breakdown, you're already estimating through your solid drawing, you're estimating more or less where things go. And you're estimating that, okay, there's going to be some follow through, and the ears aren't just going to be perfectly positioned like they would be in the stasis position, in the key poses. Like, they're not just perfectly positioned, they are a little bit tilted to the side, because they're still following in from the motion. I think, even though it might have been a bit rambly, that does kind of get at the point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I can't hear you though. Okay. Ultimately, the arcs that matter aren't like those very technical elements that you were talking about. It's the literal trajectory that happens like on these key angles, you know, on these key points. Because that's what the viewer sees. It's that the ear goes whoosh, you know? Not that like the angle is happening in one way or whatever. You feel that. You feel these arcs significantly more than like all that technical combination that you were talking about. Okay, so anything else? In that case, we're going to go over the exercises for today. The two easy exercises for today are the ball bounce without squash and stretch, even though that is very, very, very typical. If you want to add squash and stretch and you know how to, go ahead. The point here is make sure the ball's bouncing across the screen. Think of it as the basketball from this example, for example, or this one. And keep in mind the arcs that it does as it moves, and maybe even have the ball come to a stop. The second exercise is a brick falling from a shelf onto the ground. And this one is very interesting when paired with the ball, because it does the same thing as this basketball versus bowling ball thing. The brick is going to behave very differently falling from a shelf than the ball would falling from a shelf, or just bouncing around. The brick doesn't bounce around, so it kind of only falls. Those are the two easy exercises, and they're good complements to each other, precisely because they explore the same thing in different ways, and they show how arcs can be expressive of materials. The difficult exercise is animating a flour sack. I'm gonna go over the whole flour sack thing in a bit, or a character, if you have one already, waving at the camera. This is supposed to be a loop. It's also supposed to be a fairly simple loop. It's not supposed to be overcomplicating, no like excitedly waving and jumping and all that. That can be done, but it gets complicated. It's waving. So yes, these are the exercises. I am now going to open animation paper, and I'm going to be working alongside you on them as well. And yes, that is the end. This can close. Let me keep this open. And I'm just going to copy paste the exercises over into the assignments channel so that they're listed. They're more easily accessible. No. There we go. So, let's just go over the flour sack a little bit. This is our friend the flour sack. It can be very, very expressive, and it's a great tool for practicing animation as well. If I remember correctly, you build the flour sack by... Yes, you build the flour sack by having one big mass at the bottom and then one little mass on the top. And then just giving it the little things just to make sure that it doesn't close. This is expressive because it allows you to practice the squash, it allows you to practice the stretch, it allows you to practice gesture with a very, very simple shape. This can function as a character, much like the box could function as a character in Mesh's example. Without getting too complicated into human dynamics and all that. It's a step up from working on with simple shapes, but it is still simple enough that it can be fairly easily achieved. Now, that was not what I needed to do. That's better. I'm just gonna clean up my notifications again. Okay. Alright. This can go over to the other side. Also, I heavily recommend, whenever you can, to work from reference. There is no shame in doing that, and you're only going to gain by building up your visual library. Oh lord. Hello? Welcome? Welcome, NJ Robbins. We are currently in the exercises of the class. We've gone through the theory on what is an arc and how arcs can be applied and what they can convey and why they're important, one of the fundamental principles of animation. And we're currently on the phase of exercises, practicing that which we see, that which we saw. So, if you want to join in, the exercises are listed in the assignments channel, and you can give them a look. Yeah, this one's wrong. Okay. And now this is the part where we can talk about the whole arcs thing again. Mesh, because I am going to be marking them out here for the motions. This needs to be a little bit. Oh no. The main ones. The main one that I care about is the hand. It's gonna go from here. More or less this. I may be able to push it a little further, and then it comes back. At this point, that's where it is. Now it's going to come back. this is the rough of an exercise of the waving. Also, welcome, somewhat trashy. I know you were called Paul. You will not escape me. We are currently in the exercise. We're currently ending the exercise phase of the animation class. We've gone through the principle of today. It's called arcs, and it is the fundamental principle that everything that is organic moves in a circular arc, and that different sorts of circular arcs convey different motions, and different materials, and different elasticities and weights. Then we followed into a sample and the exercises at the end of the class. 2 easy exercises and 1 difficult exercise. I made an example for while I assume you were also working on yours. So if you would like to show what you got done, do feel free to share. If not, I will wait for them throughout the week to be posted. If you have any questions about the exercises, now might be a good time to ask, considering that we're basically 10 minutes away from the end of the class. So, Nance, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't. I just unmuted.
Oh, okay. Okay. I would say that in this case then, if there is nothing else to say or to ask, we're probably going to end the class. It's pretty much time already. So, yeah. Our little outro. Nacho prepared something, but I haven't taken notes of it yet.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, this is so cool to watch you work. It's a simple kind of drawing, but it's like it suggests so many beautiful things you can do. Like, I mean, with the style of hand-drawn animation, right? Like, it's, I mean, it seems like you can use animation paper to make like a, you know, like a really beautiful video, right? I guess you would just make composites of the different characters separately, do this, and then you have different files that you would like overlay onto background, or
Animation paper actually would allow you, because you have your X sheet here on the side. Let's pause the video, which means you can realistically just add more layers for more characters and time them separately.
Mm-hmm.
It is extremely flexible in that regard.
Wow. I mean, I love the kind of hand-drawn style.
Yeah, I mean, this is... You can achieve this with pretty much any digital software as well. I'll just reiterate real quick that animation papers, I'm using it, and I'm using it as an example precisely because of how simple it is. The way you work an X sheet and traditional wouldn't be that different from what you're doing here. In fact, I'm going to show you what an X sheet is, because I believe I haven't showed an X sheet yet. An actual, also X sheet, timing sheet. It has a lot of different names. I have here some images of traditional X sheets. This is the kind of stuff you use X sheets often for lip syncing, where you go through and you write down on which frames the character is saying which sounds, so that you can then adjust in the drawings and you know that you have to change. But other than that, X sheets are used for timing, much like I did here in the example, where I did my spacing here, and then I just applied it over here. I went first on 1, 9, 17, 25, and 33. Then I did frames 7, 11, 23, and 27, and then progressively, as I did the slow ins and the slow outs of the movement. Because actually, I'll just say this if this wasn't clear. The point of this is that each progressive exercise is going to require to build up on the previous principles. So previously we talked about slow ins and slow outs. You're supposed to apply them here as well. Same for spacing and timing. You're supposed to be aware of what you're doing, and you're supposed to be consciously applying it. And this is going to keep applying as we proceed further and further into more complex exercises. But yes, just to close it up with Nacho, yes, animation is wonderful, and precisely because it's really like a magical thing. You can make like anything move. And you can do a lot in pretty much everything, in pretty much any medium. The hand-drawn just facilitates it, because you can create the illusion of things a lot more easily than you would in stop motion, where you'd have to create every single model and change them and photograph them, or 3D, or pretty much anything else. And this is how the Disney animation began as well. I believe you wanted to say something, Mesh? I'm sorry I interrupted.
Well, maybe I know we're near the end, so maybe this might be a better question to pick up next time. But I maybe I'm just really slow. I still can't always like read these. I mean, I understand the basic principle of these.
Of
What do you call it?
of these?
Those things. What are those called again? I guess,
Quite frankly, timing. I guess it's kind of a timing chart.
yeah, okay, yeah. So having trouble when you so
Let me do a cleaner one over here.
okay, yeah, yeah. So if you're trying to show something that has so maybe if you could do an example of like showing one that has a very that is like evenly spaced on both sides, like if like the in and the out are the same length versus like where it's leaning to one, like it's frames on the slow out, something like that.
Okay. Let's ignore this. Let's just have frame 1 and last frame, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is your first key. This is your second key. Now, in the middle, more or less, you're gonna have your breakdown. In this case, because the timing goes from frame 1 to frame 17, I'm going to place this at frame 9. And like, you can fudge these around, right? You can say that you want your breakdown to be frame 11, if you want it to have different slow ins and slow outs, if you want it to be conveying different things.
So if you did that, if you wanted to change it to 11, you would only change the number. You wouldn't move that thing you wouldn't move that mark.
Yes. Yes. Consider this to be the spacing, okay? This is the distance that goes from this frame to this frame.
So that's the distance of a movement.
Yes. If your frame 9 was here, that means the movement's gonna cover this much until frame 9, and then this much from 9 to 17.
Okay, so that means by frame 9, it has to move like 3/4 of the way.
Yes.
To the end.
Yes.
Okay.
Give or take. So let's keep this even then. Let's keep this even because you asked for it. So in the middle, and we say that the middle frame, so between frame 1 and 9, it's going to move this. Between frame 9 and 17, it's going to move this. More or less the same. Then you can say, okay, you mark out the middle of these two. Between frame 1 and 7, and now here I'm putting 7, and that's the interesting thing, because now we're already getting the slow ins and slow outs. Between this and this is going to move in 7 frames, but this is going to move in 2 frames. Which means that this distance is going to be covered significantly faster. But then you reinforce this by adding here the 5 and here the 3. This is going to be covered in 2 frames. This is going to be covered in 2 frames. This is going to be covered in 2 frames, and this is going to be covered in 2 frames. So the spacing is progressively getting bigger.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
And and then the slow out would be the same. Just do it like that. You can do a timing chart like this, and you can say, okay, frame 1 to 17. Let's keep these markers. And now you want to do a movement. Let's say that you're doing a cannonball that was just shot into the air from like those circus, like those circus things, right? They shoot people out into the air, or whatever.
Yeah, the human cannonball, right?
Exactly, exactly. By this point, you'd want to have like frame 9 be like here, maybe, and you'd want this to like, and like imagine this movement is like, cannonball is right here, shoots and goes off into the distance, and then just does like a Team Rocket and disappears, right?
Got it. Yeah, got it.
So yeah, you would be slowing down by this point, but here you would be like going really, really fast. So here would probably be like frame 3. Here would be like frame 5. Here it might be like frame 7, and then it just gets progressively slower. And this is a different kind of chart, where this big distance was covered in the beginning, and then all these little frames are covering just the end. You know?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you could literally completely, I mean, you could just have the same markers and like change the frame numbers to sort of speed it up or slow it down, or
to plan the speed up and slow down. Yes, this is a planning tool in the end. Like, you don't have to like follow it strictly. I had this one here planned. I actually did follow it pretty much, but remember when in the boxes thing, I had a thing, but I ended up changing it around. I took a frame out of here, and then I put another one here because it felt more natural for the movement. These are planning things to help you understand what the movement's going to look like. Then for the arcs, there are 2 arcs in question here. There is the arc of the hands, or the little flap, and then there's the arc of the shoulder, or like the little point where it's tied to the thing. And both of those must be somewhat smooth. So this one follows this trajectory, goes out here a little bit, so it goes, oh no, wrong, this. It goes like this, actually, like this. Oh, crap. Like this, and then here it's gonna turn around, exactly. And then it's just gonna shoot straight up, over to here.
So
then,
you could
like,
technically, you could think of this arc as like, if you took that arc and you stretched it out as a straight line, that would kind of be like what the timing chart.
Yeah.
Was.
Yeah, exactly. Like these points that are marked out here. Yes, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. This is the actual physical spacing of these points. And it does, and the idea is that it mirrors to some extent what you laid out in the timing chart. As you said, you stretch it out into a straight line, and you're gonna get the timing chart. It's more apparent with this one because this is the main movement, although the points aren't marked here.
Like, if you were going to do a timing chart, would you like break that into two different ones?
What for
Side
this?
of the, or like would you have one timing chart for when the pillowcase is moving one way, and then another one for when it's moving the other way? I guess.
In
Like
this
if you were gonna.
case, I used one for everything.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because yeah, I just didn't mark these ones, but there's also frames over there, and I didn't like mark the numbers
Yeah.
because it
Right.
was the same as the first one. But yes, the idea here is that this is going this way, and this part is going that way. You know, it's the part where it comes back.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Yeah. That helps a lot. I don't know why it took me. I just wasn't really understanding because like I understood. I thought I understood the like it seemed like a simple concept, but it was like why are the numbers? Yeah. So yeah, now it makes sense. I don't know why I didn't understand it before, but it's like huge.
It's not intuitive. I'll give you that much. It's not really intuitive. It's not your fault. Took me a while as well.
So that thank you. That just makes me feel a little better. Yeah.
But yes, if you want to show what you've been working on so far, feel free. I'm not sure if you can stream or not, but I believe you can.
I don't have anything yet. I only have like a one monitor setup.
Oh,
I mean, I'm on a laptop, so yeah. If I'll try to do this on my own time. But yeah, I'm glad I got a chance to actually watch you doing it.
Okay.
It was really cool to see that.
I mean, in part, I do this in the hopes that people do it along as well. Not what I'm doing, not what I'm doing, but it's like I'm here to answer questions and for all these things. I also wanted to do these, as I said in the beginning. We're together in this. I need to get back to animation, but
Yeah. Well, there's something oddly mesmerizing actually about just watching the animation process. Like yeah, it's sort of like it's slowly coming to life in front of you, kind of fun on its own. So,
but yeah.
yeah.
Regardless, yes, that's going to be it on my end.
Thank
If-
you again. Yeah.
If there are any questions, now's the time. Otherwise, we're probably going to end it. It appears there are no other questions. So, thank you for joining us today for another instance of the Animation Lab. I hope to see your exercises or whatever it is you're working on in the 10-second clips next for next class, for next lab. Whichever exercise you did, there are again some easier, some more difficult. Do keep in mind arcs as you do them. Do keep in mind the way that do keep in mind the slow ins, the slow outs, and be aware of the spacing as you do them. Other than that, that is going to be it for me. And have a good night. Nacho, would you do the outro?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. So just to let you know, there is if you have a script that you need some feedback on, Paul is hosting a script swap on our sister server, ToonCamp. There's a link in the chat. And yeah, be sure to join us next week, same time every week, 3 p.m. Pacific time. The next session of Animation Lab. And for anyone who's watching live, you can join us. Check out scriptcamp.net/membership or just click the link in the video description to enter the Discord.
Alright, so have a good night, and I'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Have a
night.
good week.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Have a good
Good night.
week.
Yep.
Good night.
Bye-bye.